Hello, and welcome to the Be Purely Balanced podcast. I'm Dr. Crystal Couture, and today I'm here with Suzie Cheel. Suzie is a freedompreneur, an intuitive artist, inspirational writer, healer, and speaker, and she is the creator of her beautiful Heart Whisper Oracle cards. Her mission is to inspire thousands to be empowered, create their abundant lives through being powered by love and living their passion. Suzie's colorful, positive personality, her honesty, openness, and energetic attunement inspire others to embrace change courageously. Suzie believes we all have the ability to create the life we desire if we learn to listen to the whispers of our heart where true wisdom is found. Suzie, the artist, is passionate about coloring the world, visually and emotionally. Her Heart Whisper Oracle deck helps many to learn each day to truly love themselves. Hi, Suzie.
Hi, Crystal. Wow, it's amazing when somebody else reads out about you. It makes me very emotional.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to have you. And this bio is fantastic for you. You are such a colorful being, and I love your energy. We met online and you're just radiant.
Thank you very much. And that's something that I love for everybody else to be, to have that radiance in their health, in their life, in their business, in everything that they do. And it's not always easy, I know, but we can do it through the more we love ourselves.
Absolutely. So as an artist and a writer, your own healing journey has really evolved through the expressive arts. And I would love for our listeners to have an opportunity to hear your own healing story.
Right. Well, it's very interesting. I mean, I normally start this healing story off with, I had a choice: life, death, or dialysis. And in a heartbeat, I chose life. I'd been told I had a 25% chance of ever living a normal life again. That was almost 7 years ago. I woke up one morning in our local hospital, in Tweed Heads Hospital. I always remember it, in Med 1, Bed 4, looking out over a beautiful garden with palm trees. So I felt very blessed at that point. I was apparently very, very sick. And all I had done was rung Des and say, bring in my computer, bring my crystals, bring my cards. At that point, I didn't have Heart Whisper cards, but I was trained with Doreen Virtue. So I had all of her cards, and I used cards every day. So I had all these doctors and nurses and specialists surrounding me. And I'd woken up and I'd looked up, and I saw on the board that my specialist was called Krishna. And as being a very spiritual person, I thought, oh, wow, isn't that sort of some synchronicity? At that point, I had no idea what had been wrong. I'd been taken into emergency the night before and had a catheter put in. What had happened was I had an autoimmune disease that went rogue, and I had a total kidney failure. They told me I had a little bit of kidney function at that time, but later on the specialist, when Des actually asked him how much it had been, and he said 0. Wow. So I'm very, very lucky. So it was a near-death experience. But when they said that to me, that I had this choice, that I only had 25% chance, I had a choice of living, dialysis, or death. And there were 3 people in the Tweed Hospital at that time. I was one of them. There was another woman who is on permanent dialysis, and there was another guy who they tried the experimental treatment they did with me on, but too late. And unfortunately, he did die. So you've no idea. I do feel very blessed. I said in a heartbeat to that specialist, well, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to use my law of attraction tools, and I'm going home. Because I had at that point just trained as a law of attraction facilitator. So I had all the tools and I was going to do that. And they looked at me as if I was mad. So it was a very interesting next week or so with biopsies and dialysis and whatever else. But my breakthrough moment, or maybe why I got this illness, came about a week later, sitting in a dialysis chair, and I just sat there and I said, what is this all about? And I had my journal, and I got this downpour that said, or download, I should say, that, Suzie, this is all about love. When you fully love yourself, you will be healed. And then you will take that message of love to the world. Well, that was a bit of a shock for me. As you know, I was in my 60s. I was in my early 60s. I bought Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life when it first came out in the 80s. I had been working on myself with personal development through, I have a master's degree. I'd done so much work on myself at that point in time. And I thought, that's crazy. But I realized at the time why this happened. I was about to launch a whole law of attraction business, nothing to do with art. Although I had been an artist, I had had a very successful textile business for 15 years of hand painting textiles. And before that, I had always done something creative. I had very creative parents, not artists, but creative in their own way. And for those listeners who feel they haven't got a creative bone in their body, when I was 12 and I really wanted to do art, I was told by the art teacher that I couldn't do art because I couldn't draw. I'd love to find that teacher again, particularly after I had a very successful textile art business. And as Crystal has met me as an artist healer, and until recently also I was coaching. I'm doing readings, but I'm not coaching. So that download for me was a real shock and maybe a real wake-up call. But I didn't heed it straight away, as sometimes we don't. I did after 2 weeks come home, and I was just sort of getting back into doing things slowly, very slowly, because most of I spent about a year or so lying on a bed. I had a lot of healing to do, and I had a lot of side issues because of all of the drugs. But I started must have been about the October, I decided I just started painting before all this happened. I had a reading with a psychic friend of mine from New York, which I'd won, and it was going to be a past life thing. And she said, I'm just going to do a tarot reading. And at the end of it, she said, I'm going to give you a prescription. I said, yes. A prescription for what? She said, I want you to go and get a colouring book from one of those cheap shops and some pens or something. And I said, hold on. I've got a whole room full of fabrics and paints and pens and papers and whatever else. So on the April 2011, I started on a 21-day prescription, healing sort of prescription. And I painted for 21 days. And if people like to go back on my Facebook profile, you'll find all of those paintings there, and they're also on my website. And then I didn't do much more with it. about October, I decided, I think it's time to pick up the paintbrushes. So I had a little book. So because I was going to the beach and doing other things for healing, my husband drove me down every day. And so I did that. And I set myself a goal to paint 45 hearts. And I thought, did one a day, shared them online, wrote them, put them on my blog, and listened for the message I was getting from as I painted, and then afterwards I journaled on each heart. So I did that, and I think I was into about day 30, and I found myself back in hospital because I hadn't quite learnt the lesson. I was trying to put together all the things I was trying to do before I got sick. So the universe decided, no, you're going to learn to be patient, you're going to heal. And I landed back in hospital, this time for a week, but back on dialysis. I had been still having dialysis initially 3 times a week, going to the hospital and things, and I was also on something, they used some chemo treatment on me called cytoblastin, which, so I recovered from that, but that was my real turning point of healing. I then went totally alkaline. I actually finally got online and looked at what I had, what the kidney disease was I had, what was going to heal it, and I gave, November I gave up. This was in November I landed in hospital, because I know when I came out, because it was my sister-in-law's 60th birthday, and it was my mother's birthday. So I always remember that they said, yes, you could go home. And going home after hospital was always really good. They did not have alkaline food that I'd finally started to eat more healthily. I've always eaten a really healthy diet, but going alkaline had lots of side benefits. I think I lost about 10 kilos, and so did my husband. So it was, and I'm still a big alkaline advocate. And if I feel myself going off course, I look at my diet and things as well. But that set up, that heart series, I then continued. There were some very black drawings while I was in hospital. I used crayons in hospital. I still kept doing it while I was there. And then I just started painting hearts. And out of that came the Heart Whisper e-zine, which has been on a holiday recently, which is actually starting again this week, where I shared a heart every week, some painting with a channeled message from my heart. And it became very, very popular. And I did it for about 4 years. And during that time, I was doing a challenge with a woman called Melissa Dinwiddie, and you had to do something creative for 10 days. So I thought, I'll start again. I'll do another series of hearts. So 10 days came, and I thought, I'm really enjoying this. So the 10 went to 30. I thought, I've done it for a month. I'll go for another few months. And then I decided I was going to paint for 365 days. Wow. And I painted a heart every day. Yeah, I have friends who came to dinner, and I'd say, hold on, and if it was 11 o'clock at night, which I don't normally stay up to, and I hadn't done it, or we were staying with somebody in Sydney, cousins or something, I'd go and get my little watercolour book and my little tray of watercolours, and I would paint. And I did a lot of postcards. I did big ones. I did big ones. I did small ones. A lot of them, I did a lot that were postcards, because when I was traveling. So I did that for 365 days. And about half of them are in the Heart Whisperers group on Facebook. They're sitting there. But out of that came a lot of healing for me, I think, through painting. because I think what happens is we suppress our creativity. We spend too much time in our head, and we forget about our heart. And yes, I talk about heart whispers, but for those listening, your heart whispers are your intuition, those tugs that you get in your heart, your gut, whatever else. But for me, they're the whispers from the heart. There might be messages from your angels. They're messages from the universe, from God, whatever your beliefs are, I believe that they fit into that. And what I've discovered is until we fully love ourselves, we don't even listen to the whispers of our heart. We spend so much time up here in our head, goes round and round and round, because I know it still happens for me. I have to think, what am I doing up there? Heart knows. And it's been very interesting for me just the past couple of days. I'm embarking on a 40-day abundance type challenge. And last night I did a drawing, and out came freedom, abundance, and then follow your heart. And I thought, that's interesting. So I thought I'll just shuffle the cards this morning. What was the card that was sticking out? Follow your heart. And I think we have to remember, I think there's a really big message there for us. So many of us get tied up in the what ifs, the woulds, the coulds, the shoulds. What will our neighbours think? That comes from my mother. Who, by the way, gave me the title for the book that I'm writing, which is called Lucky to Be Alive. Because this kidney failure was not my first near-death experience. When I was 16, I was knocked over by a car, and I was in a coma for a week. My heart stopped, and my mother used to always say to me, you don't know what it was like. You don't know how lucky you are to be alive. So when I had the kidney failure, and I had this wonderful doctor here in Tweed, and we were in seeing her maybe about a month after I come out of hospital, and I said to her, what caused this? And she said, well, they don't know. They don't know. It's something in your autoimmune system. I now believe it was my own beliefs and whatever else that I had to stop to really be able to move forward. But she said 5 years ago, they would have been finding out from an autopsy, because they wouldn't have known what drugs to use. So I was very lucky that the renal specialist used, I think now, excessive amount of drugs. Excessive amount of drugs, and which then have had a lot of side effects for me. But if he hadn't done that on that Saturday morning and pumped the prednisone and whatever else, and then later on that week changed the dialysis to plasma therapy, I think it was I had, and put me on this chemo treatment, which was dreadful, I might not be here. So I've been always thankful in that way that happened. But
wow.
Yeah, but I know it's been a journey, because
so Suzie, how, you're so vibrant. You have this amazing gift of sharing, whispers of the heart, and also sharing yourself through what you're doing, through your art, and just the essence. And obviously it's healing for you. It's healing for everyone that you touch. So how do you transition from the what was to just living in this very present moment, in this state of now?
When I was in hospital, I got a message from a friend who I hadn't actually seen for ages. And she said to me, well, if anybody's going to get through this, you are. You're the most positive person I know. I don't know whether I'd always seen myself as positive, but a lot of people see me as being a very, very positive person because I have that attitude of, I suppose we can. So I am really sorry here. The attitude that we can heal ourselves, and I suppose that I've always thought that the power of positive thinking. There's a lot of books I read very early on. I did a postgraduate course in social communication. I've had a lot of knockbacks in my life. I was a teacher and I was a trainer of students and I was running a whole department, but I'd been acting in it. And when I went for the full-time job, I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And everybody said, oh, you've got to appeal. I was teaching in probably what you would call like a college and training childcare workers. That's my background in preschool. Mm-hmm. That's where a lot of my creative comes from as well. And I didn't. I just started painting on silk. So I walked out of a safe, secure job, really well-paid holidays, what we call here in Australia superannuation, and set up Suzie Cheel hand-painted originals. I had never had a business. I came from a public service background. So from there, I suppose, I learned a lot. And I learned, I did a lot of things. I had the most brilliant studio and lots of things. So I suppose I always look on the bright side of things. I get down and my husband will tell you there are times when through all this healing that I have been very depressed because of the drugs. I got crush fractures in my back. So I still have to do back exercises every day. Hanging the washing is a challenge. I discovered the other day I never do it. Des does everything. But I said, I'll hang all this up. And I could feel, no, that's something I still can't do. So what is it? It's one of my cards says, happiness is a choice we have as we begin each day. And I actually believe that. I always think of, is it Michael Lozier, the person I trained with, the How to Law of Attraction guy. I'm one of his facilitators. And I remember when I was training, there was this story how does your day start? What is it you're attracting into your life? So do you get out of bed and you hit your toe and you do what, and then, you spill your coffee and then you're late for work and the whole day just goes down the thing. Or my thing is, do you get out of bed or do you wake up with a smile? Do you say thank you for a good night's sleep? I'm always reminded of the beautiful Wayne Dyer, who I actually had the pleasure of meeting, which was just wonderful, who used to get up in the morning and the first thing he did as he put his feet on the ground was thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's, as you're just asked me that question, I'm going to say one of the things that allows us all to have more love, to have more abundance, and to be positive is gratitude. Absolutely. So if something's not going right in my life, I can just stand up and I can get angry and I can do what else, or I can say thank you, thank you, thank you. Or I'm very blessed, I can also walk out the back door and in 10 minutes be down at the beach and just move myself out of it. So what I do is to stay positive because, we all have our down days. So when I do that, I do something that will put me in a positive state. And I remember a couple of months ago, Des said, you just need to get away from here. You're being not very nice and whatever else. So I took myself to the beach. It was 5 o'clock at night. I came back and I was in a totally different state. because I'd talked to myself. I'd done gratitude. I do gratitude rants on the beach. I learnt that from somebody, a friend of mine, Alex. I do gratitude rants. And so what happens is I raise my vibes. So I'm really into raising vibes. So I think everything I do online, although sometimes I share down days and things, but not a lot, everything I do online is about helping other people raise their vibes and to be positive.
Absolutely. So it's hard for people through this audio, perhaps to see the colors of you. I know them because we know each other, but it really would do any of our listeners justice to actually have a look at your website, have a look at your cards, because the colors are phenomenal. And, being that I'm a bit intuitive myself, as you're talking, I'm seeing all of your colors, all of your hearts just around you and surrounding you. And so what a pleasure that is to be interviewing you and having this visual experience.
How wonderful. Crystal, can I just tell, that is wonderful that you're seeing that, because I did a meditation this morning that was, I've been told I'm surrounded by angels, like somebody who, I had a lot of healers help me heal. And somebody came to my house who's a sound healer. And she said, I know you can't see it or anything, but she said, this whole room is full of angels. And I did a meditation this morning, and it was fascinating. I saw my parents sitting on either side of my shoulders, but I saw all these angels. And it's the first time I felt them, but I've never actually visualized them. So you being able to say, so you can see my energy, which I can't see, which everybody tells me I have no idea that I have that, impact. I mean, I know because people tell me, but I'm not conscious of it while I'm sitting here talking, except I know that when I'm doing this, I'm doing the work I'm meant to be here to do, because I'm meant to be getting that message out. And I want to just thank you for asking me, because I've been hiding away, and from this, I'm now going out to do more and more.
I know you
And if people want to see my colour, tell them to come. You go to my page or come to my Facebook profile. I'm about to do 40 days of a live every day. You'll see a lot of colour, and you'll see a lot of my cards during that time.
Oh, wonderful. So, Suzie, let's kind of come into this idea of color and expressive arts, and what's really the link between your heart and the expression, or that for anybody, because for you it's obvious. You literally paint your heart, you literally paint those heart whispers, and then you write about them. So what's the translation for perhaps those that aren't painting every day or aren't drawing every day? Because we can all tap into this, right? We all have this ability to use expressive arts. So
we all have an art. We all have an art. Now, your art doesn't have to be painting. And I think it's when people think it has to be painting, that's when it limits them. You might love drawing. You might like making collages. Gardening might be your art. Mm-hmm. One of my other arts is cooking, because I'm passionate. My husband thinks he lives in a restaurant, and I just throw things together. So it's a bit like I do art, I'm not a trained cook, and I'm not a trained artist. It can be, I think writing is an art, and that's one that so many of us have. And so for the people who feel they don't have something, this is what I try to encourage people to do. You don't have to get my cards, but you can get anybody's cards. And every day start asking yourself a question and just draw one card. Just draw one card. Get yourself a journal and start to allow what's inside to come out. So that's for people who feel they really haven't got a creative bone in their body. But then what about the other people who sew and stitch? because I find stitching, I also make art quilts, which I haven't done for a long while, but I find that a very meditative process. There's a friend of mine who's found her creativity recently through stepping back from everything she was doing, and she calls it Twisted Crochet. Her business now is called Twisted Crochet, and she makes hats and babies and all these amazing things. And when I saw that, that just reminded me of my mother, because my mother used to sit watching TV, talking, doing everything else, crocheting or knitting. And my sister-in-law makes cards and, you know, the most amazing things. We all have different ways of expressing our art. But if we don't express it, you know, we were all born with this innate ability. When you were at preschool or kindergarten, I think as you call it, we had our fingers in paint as we did finger painting. We were painting, we were drawing, we were building, we were creating. But somehow, round about 7, we went to school in those early years of school, and we drew a bird. And the bird had a head, and it had wings that looked very funny. And the kid was so delighted. And then somebody said, an adult said, well, that's not what a bird looks like. This is what a bird looks like.
Right.
And we get, our creativity gets stuffed. And, you know, you might have I have a friend who's a glass artist and a potter. And many years ago, she had a party. And Des said, this is my husband, who doesn't think he's got a creative bone in his body. Said, oh, no, I'm not going to do any of that. I said, and Sally said, yes, you are. And I gave him a plate and he painted it. And it was absolutely beautiful. And he never picked up a paint. And guess what? He dropped it and it broke.
Oh.
So it was sort of like, I can't do this. Yet he's so creative with words and network. You know, I think if all our businesses had a creative element, we'd have more fun. There'd be more play. We all need to have an element of play. So I suppose, yes, cooking and painting, and gardening. I like gardening. I like getting my hands in the dirt. I hate wearing gloves. There are so many ways we can be creative. But we also need to do that. I believe we have to know we are enough. We have to know that we are loved. And what I'm finding, Crystal, is, and this just came up on my website. I did pick a card last week on my website, and then I did a live reading for people. And there was somebody who said, oh, yeah, I really need to do that. And I said, well, surely, because I know this woman and she's in a spiritual group that I'm in. I said, but, you know, you are taking 5 minutes a day that's just for you, that's to meditate or to reflect. No, she said. I said, okay, I wasn't going to do this, but I was thinking, the other day, I've got a challenge that's I Am Enough challenge, a 7-day challenge that I did many years ago. And I said, you might have prompted me to bring back some self-love work so that the people like you who need it. But I think that's it. So many, and particularly, and it's not just, I used to think it was mainly women, but I'm discovering now I have a lot of males who read my Heart Whisper. I'm quite surprised. I looked recently at who was opening it. And I said to Des, there's all these men opening my mail.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking now is and because everybody says, I haven't got enough time. So how we can start our getting the creativity into our life so we can then get it into our relationships and into our business is start with 5 minutes a day. Get a journal. Breathe. You know, what is it? Sonia Choquette's one of my spiritual mentors. This beautiful woman. who gave me really good advice that I didn't follow, that I had to do that I was a healer and I had to be out there selling my art. So she says, just start. And Louise Hay used to say the same thing. Just start with 2 minutes. Stop for 2 minutes and breathe. Just get still. And I'm still surprised because that's mainly what I find when I do my readings with my clients and when I do my much bigger heartscape process, which is a combination of it all ends up being self-love, about people really having to learn to love themselves. And it has to become a daily ritual. People are amazed at how much time I spend each morning that's just for me. And I'm blessed. I don't have, I'm older, I don't have kids around. I have a husband and we do walk on the beach every day. But I do take an hour or two in the morning that is my spiritual and that's my me time. And yes, it does. You've got to get up earlier. You've got to wake up earlier. And then when do I do it in bed? I stay in bed and I do it in bed. But I think, don't you think, Crystal, we don't take enough time. People just say, oh, no, I haven't got time. But if we don't have time for ourselves, we don't have quality time for everybody else.
I agree with you completely, Suzie. My morning routine, similar to yours, is a bit over an hour. And I think it's a joy to give myself that time. And it's a joy before I start seeing clients to know that I'm going in the healthiest state possible. And the healthiest vibration possible as well, of course. So, I wanted to ask you, because it's fascinating, you've always been an artist, so to speak. But your art, your modality, as well as the way that you create the art, has changed since you got sick. So can you just talk to the energy of that transition? Can you talk to how the energy is different now than it was when you were creating before?
When I was creating before, I've always done it intuitively. Okay. It's always, I don't know. I used to get a piece of white fabric and paint. So I could never be a production artist because I couldn't repeat it. I tell a funny story. I did a range of ties for a company and they wanted bees on them. And Des could hear me. I was downstairs in the studio and he was upstairs and he used to say, oh, there's bloody bees. How many more bees do I have to paint? So I knew that was out of alignment. So what I try to do is when I try to do something that I think I should paint, I know that it doesn't work. But what I do is to get into that sort of flow of doing it is, I don't know, just allow a colour to choose me, it just flows. And from that, I think that's helped me heal a lot of things. And I'm guilty, very guilty at the moment, of not picking up a paintbrush for a month or more. And I've just done International Soul Art Day and I've done all the written work, but I still haven't picked up the paintbrush to paint the passion that I feel has got to come out. I'm going to do it this week. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes out. So I think what happens there with that transition of that expression from in there is I'm still suppressing it a bit, which is interesting. I'm not creating that time each day, but I am doing expressive things through, I believe, my words and so I now wake up every day and a little phrase comes out. I'm calling them morning whispers and they're on my Instagram and on Facebook. So that's another one. See, that's part of, I think, expressive art is allowing what comes from meditation in here and it goes on to a coloured square, sometimes my painting, something else. So that's another way. And if there are people who don't want to use paints, something I want to explore is digital art. I've come across some art recently, and it's just amazing, and it's all digital. And so that just came up for me for the people who don't know how to be creative. Play on your phone. On your phone has lots of apps where you can be creative as well. So that transition for me is, it lights me up. I think that's what it is. And it's not just painting. When I'm stitching, I get lit up. Because I often stitch into fabric I've previously painted. So that can, that's another way that can help as well. I never saw myself. I do have a book I wrote called Emergings, a meditation on the emotions of change, where I painted watercolours. There isn't a heart in sight on that. That was done in nearly 30 years ago, and I'm just about to revamp it and republish it. So I suppose I've always had a painting streak there, but it used to be on fabric, some of it on paper. But that was a very different style of painting. But it was also always, I think it's about letting go and allowing what's in to come out. And I've done very few, I've done some workshops and things, but I've done very few workshops where I've learned to paint.
So I love how you said this, letting go, allowing what's in to come out. I think that's such a great way to express it, because it takes away, the expectation and the idea of perfection and setting ourselves up for, something that is impossible to create. It's just letting go, allowing what's in to come out. I love it. It's fantastic. And without further ado, I really, really would love to dive in to your Heart Whisperer Oracle cards. And I know you're ready and excited to share a reading today with our listeners. So it would just be amazing for us to have that time together.
Okay, we'll do that now. So this is for everybody listening. This is what I say to people before we start and things like that, is just get still and center yourself and tap into your heart. Just focus on your heart. And as I shuffle the cards, just ask yourself, what does my heart want me to know today? So we're just focusing on the cards, and I'm asking for this reading to be for the highest good of everybody who's listening, and that it will give you clarity and an answer maybe to something that you might have been puzzled about or something before. And if anybody wants to know how I'm doing this, I literally listen for a signal in the eye that says now. And for this one, I'm going to draw the first card. I'm going to draw 3 cards. This is very interesting, the first card. I'm just going to take 3 straight off the top today. Right, so the first card we have is compassion. So the focus of this would be, how can you be kind to yourself? The message on the card says, when you listen to the whispers of your heart, you're being kind to you and compassion flows. And what I'm going to do, Crystal, is when we do when I write a blog post about this, I will put the cards in my blog post so the readers can come to my post and have a look at that, and I'll share that link with you.
Perfect.
The second card is interesting because it's something we've been talking about today, is play.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that there? Oh, sorry. Play. Take some time today to allow your heart to find some fields of love to play in. So I'm going to challenge all of the listeners that you take at least 5 minutes today and just play. Be like a kid. Dance or do something like that. Run on the beach. Run along the sea. Run in the grass. Get your feet. You're going into summer, so you can get your feet wet. So that's the focus. Right, the issue is being, kind to yourself, having kind. The action is make what you're doing a bit more playful than you are at the moment. And what we come to the outcome or moving forward is we really have to trust. This is a trust card that's come out today. Calm comes when you let go of the struggle, listen to and trust the whispers of your heart. And I think that from what we've been talking about, I just think that is perfect because this is the one area that I find for myself and for, the clients I do readings and things for, is about really learning to trust. And the struggle is get out of the head and make the shift from your head into your heart.
Absolutely. Wow, that was really perfect. It was a great culmination of our conversation, and I think it's so divinely guided that this was exactly the message.
Isn't that? I just think the universe knows. What is it that Gabrielle Bernstein says? The universe has your back.
Exactly. It's perfect. So, Suzie, you have a whole bunch of ways for our listeners to get in touch with you. So why don't we start first off with your website?
My website is SuzieCheel.com.
So that's SuzieCheel.com. And people can access your blog, and they can also access your cards and some of your...
access my cards and my readings there. And the other... and then the other way people can access my artwork is through on mugs, on tote bags, on T-shirts. Today I'll just stand up for you even though they can't see it. I'm actually wearing the Courage T-shirt.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Well, these are available just for Americans from Amazon. They're really good quality T-shirts as well. But I also have a shop on Redbubble that sells prints and notebooks and a variety of products as well.
Mm-hmm. And then, Suzie, of course, you're on Facebook and on Instagram as well. So there are many, many ways for people to access all of your colors.
And most days I post a heart whisper.
Beautiful.
I post a reading.
Beautiful. So, and the other thing is you have a special promo for our listeners today. So that is your Heart Whisper reading, essentially, and you're giving quite a discount. So if you want to just chat about that for a quick moment.
Yes. So the Heart Whisper reading is a session where you meet with me via Zoom. So I record it. It's up to you whether you want the recording or not. Some people do, some people don't, but it's nice to have it to go back to. We start with, I ask you some questions, so I've got some background before we start about you choose an area of your life you want to have a reading on. I do an intuitive guided meditation for you to start, which is why I give you the recording, so that you can pull that meditation out, and then you can have it and you can use it every day. And I'm guided by what I've learned about you, and what I feel that, that's how my meditations come. Then we do a 3+, sometimes more cards, depending on what I'm guided to do, reading, which is a lot more detailed than what and I tap into what your questions and things are that you've given me. And I then give you some tools, depending on what the reading is and what comes up, some tools for you to take away. So you leave the reading with some clarity, but you also always leave the reading with an action step. And so that you're not left hanging there. You've got something that you've gone from the reading. You'll get a photo of the cards. And if people would like the cards and a reading, just send me a message, because I do a package for that. So you'll have a picture of the cards, and you can journal afterwards on what comes out. But so that's what it's quite comprehensive. So that's what, and I've given us. The link Crystal has is just for you, for all her listeners.
Okay, so that will be listed in the show notes so that people have access to that, which is fantastic. So Suzie, the last question I have for you is when are you going to do a challenge that encourages people, on your Facebook group to share their own expressive arts? Because that's what I'm thinking now. I'm thinking, I love writing, and I love so many other forms of expressing. And of course, my healing sessions are a way in which I express myself. But I just love this idea of, bringing out all of my old pastels and colored pencils and paints and just like going to town for, however long. So, yeah.
Well, isn't that fascinating? Well, that is very challenging. That is quite challenging for me right at this very point in time, because I've just taken on this other very heart-centered, working with the most amazing heart-centered group of people with my husband. And we've just started on this, and I've just got to put a bit, but I'm going to take that on board, and maybe your summer, maybe August.
Yeah.
So okay. Looks like I've been given a challenge. I'm going to make a note of that. So this is going to be a creative heart challenge. That's what just came to me. What do you think about that, Crystal?
I love it.
Right, okay, creative heart challenge, and we'll emphasise the art in the heart. And I've got August here. It's just I've got a lot of family and things happening in July and things, so hard for me to do, because you would love for me to do this live. We'll do it live in the Heart Whisperers group.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Suzie. What a pleasure this was, and hopefully there's a little bit of intuitive guidance for what's possible for you that just randomly came. But what a light you are, what a radiance you are, coming through this story, sharing your art in such a powerful way, and sharing that today. It means so much to me. It's really special to be with you and share this energy beyond our own conversation, with the listeners, because it's raising everyone's vibration.
Oh, thank you. So it gave me goosebumps, actually. Thank you so much, Crystal, for inviting me. Yes, because what you've raised my own awareness to is it's time for me to be out there more. And, I keep putting something off. I want to have an abundance show, and where I interview people like you, but lots of my other writer friends and things like that who work with abundance and gratitude and creativity, but how it all ties into, to me, everything ties back to the self-love that we have to have before we can allow our creative selves out into the world.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you again.